We know this weapon as the quintessential Siva weapon, and it's very hard to not fall in love with everything about it on the surface. The aesthetic, the sound, the noise when you get a kill, the nanites. In PvP, this gun is an absolute laser and is one of the most consistent experiences you'll find on any weapon. It's not a fast killer, but it doesn't need to be. In this video, I'm going to show you why Outbreak Perfected will actually make you a better player. We're going to go in depth about what this gun is and what it isn't, and why it just might be the best weapon for starting your journey to get good. My name is Ascendant Nomad, and I'm your Crucible Doctor. Alrighty, let's get it out the way. 450 RPM pulse rifles are in a bit of a strange spot in this meta. The Outbreak Perfected hits a 3-burst shot that does 25 to the head, 16 to the body, with an optimal time to kill of 0.87 seconds, using 3 bursts with a minimum of 7 crits and 1 body to kill. This is pretty competitive with most other archetypes on paper, especially 140 RPM hand cannons that spot an identical TTK. The difference is that peak shot damage is lower on average, and it's harder to execute your full 3 bursts with precision at speed. There are 2 types of 450 RPM pulse rifles in the game too. The aggressive frame 4-burst rifles like the Sacred Provenance, and the lightweight pulse rifles, which are your more traditional 3-burst tools. Both archetypes are outshone by their siblings. Aggressives do 2-tap off the rip, but 340s can do it faster and more reliably with greater crit and body shot damage. Lightweight pulse rifles kill reasonably fast, but their lower base range on average makes them hard to justify over their rapid-fire 540 RPM siblings, which occupy similar engagement ranges and kill just a wee bit faster, 0.8 versus 0.87 seconds. The playstyle involved in both is also identical. Outbreak sits in that lightweight 450 RPM category, dealing identical critical and body shot numbers to its legendary counterparts. It's an oddity and a little bit of an ugly duckling when you consider the primary meta and the diversity it contains outside of your 120s and Dead Man's Tales. Even amongst other oddballs like Trustee, Multimark, and the Summoner, Outbreak doesn't seem to offer much competitively against other options, and it takes an exotic slot to boot too. So, what value does it actually have? Well, it's incredibly stable, works remarkably well as a dueling weapon, and creates nanites on a precision kill, which turn out to be more than a little handy against multiple enemies. But this is just icing. These are nice to haves. What Outbreak really offers is that it's the best set of training wheels you can put on to becoming a better player. It's not something you want to use in 3v3 game modes all the time, but your first step to improvement should come in 6s anyways. We talked about this in a previous video. Outbreak Perfected will force you to think about the fundamentals of your game. Here's what you'll learn from rocking one. Number 1. Stability. This gun is an absolute laser. Stats don't tell the full story, and this is where it's evident the most. This gun is perfectly stable with just 46 stability. My experiences with this weapon have been limited to just PC, but I've been reliably informed by my community that this is also true for console as well. Speaking of which, discord.gg/AscendantNomad, it's a good time, I promise. This allows you to not fight the weapon as much as you might do with others. The recoil pattern is very manageable, even for beginners, which then gives you the confidence to fire it at more people more often. If you're fighting your weapon, you're only concerned about hitting your shots, and you're distracted from arguably the more important tickets. Things like watching your radar, being aware of your surroundings, and looking at your teammates for direction in where to find the fights. Outbreak's inherent stability negates a lot of those weapon worries. In my streams over at Twitch, I get a lot of players asking me about what weapons they should pick up to use to get better at PvP. Whilst the obvious answer might be to use a 120 RPM hand cannon or something else that's meta, the reality is that you should use the gun that works best for you and your sensibilities. A good, stable gun is a universally easy to use one. After testing Outbreak for a while now, I think it may very well be my go-to recommendation for guns to improve your aim with. Number 2. Consistency. Yes, okay, all weapons require you to be consistent to an extent, but Outbreak tests your fundamentals more. You have to respect its limitations, which forces you to play better. This gun will not bail you out of situations like a 120 with Rampage ever could. You can't fly in the air to open different attack angles without Heat Rises, Wings of Sacred Dawn, or Line Rampants. But you know what you can do? Lay next to cover, slide out of corners, and look to take the first shot. If you're not familiar with these fundamentals already, maining in Outbreak will teach them to you by necessity. What you thought was good positioning will be rewritten because it will not be good enough to use an Outbreak well. This gun requires you to be constantly on target to kill, which will make you realize that you need to minimize the threat to your life in the process. Good fundamentals create consistency, and this gun will teach you to become more consistent in spades. It'll also teach you to take the first shot on, which leads me to number 3, aggression. This gun is surprisingly adept for aggressive players. A pulse rifle like this really demands you take the fight to the other players, as opposed to others like the Messenger or No Time to Explain, which really reward the more passive plays. Outbreak's got decent enough range for passive players, but the nanites that proc on a precision kill are really what gives it an added edge against multiple Guardians. No matter what range you play, you have to make sure that you get the first shot away. As a simple goal, there is no better way to learn to be more aggressive. You have to get that first shot away. Push forward and slay out. You're probably thinking right now, or maybe before you started this video, that these are a lot of words to justify using Outbreak. After all, why would I use a gun that demands me to be better to use it? You don't have to do anything you don't want to. I'm just trying to make my point here. And besides, aren't you tired of running the same old stuff for the last 3 months? Season's coming to a close, so let's go out there and experiment a little. That being said, I do have some suggestions for the meta slaves that you'll come across. Number 1, close the gap. Remember, a lot of the best weapons right now revolve around distance. Dead Man's Tail, Igneous, the Messenger, you name it. Closing the gap will not only allow you to be more consistently within Outbreak's operating range, but there's also an off chance that direct play can throw them off. In a pure time to kill duel, Outbreak wins against an Igneous Hammer in a neutral state. Number 2, move between cover. Always shoot behind cover as best as you can, but variate your angles as much as you can when shooting and always be moving when you're not. You don't want to be caught flat on your feet when the second and third guys come in. You need that first shot off, remember? Number 3, disengage quickly when you need to. Outbreak's not going to win every fight, no gun ever will, but it's important to understand when to retreat. If they're out of your range, get 2 shots off unanswered, or there's multiple people in front of you, just disengage. Number 4, play for precision kills. Your nanites will be extremely clutch against clusters of opponents or in crowded maps. They're also great for temporary area denial, but some folks will rush through them regardless. If 1 or 2 hit, that's 1 or 2 less bullets you need to kill, and spawn more nanites. More than anything, this weapon is just fun to use, and that's why we're here to begin with. Go out and give it a spin. You will definitely suck with it for a while, but over time, I promise you, it's a bloody good time. Be patient, give it a go. It's worth the effort. If you like this video, you know what to do. I'm Ascendant Nomad, and I'm your Crucible Doctor. Cheers.